You fired up? Okay. Might as well get this party started.
I'm ready.
Okay. Sammy? Okay. I would like to call to order today's Sylvania Township Board of Trustee meeting, June 17th at 6 p.m. Call to order.
Call the roll. Mr. Crandall?
Here.
Mr. Mahoney?
Here.
Mr. Genowine?
Here.
Mr. Simcoe? Here.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do we have any corrections or amendments to the meeting minutes of the June 3rd meeting?
I do not.
I do not. I'll move approval.
Second?
Mr. Crandall?
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mr. Genowine?
Yes. Any additions or deletions to the agenda this evening?
Yes, I'd like to add one thing. Senator Randy Gardner's here. He'd like to talk to the trustees and the public about what's going on in Columbus.
Sounds good. Anything else?
No.
Do we have anyone signed in for the agenda items?
Yes, we have one for talking about the fire department.
Okay. Well, Randy, are you ready to?
I can.
All right, that'd be good.
Can I do it from here, or must I be you record it over there?
Yeah, better.
So what I say can be, will be used against me? Well, good evening. Thank you for allowing me a few minutes to speak with you this evening. This is not a formal speech or a state address, so no one needs to be concerned and say, gee, we picked the night where the senator's there and it's going to take us an hour to get to the rest of the agenda. So that won't happen, but really I'm here for two reasons. Number one, I believe that one of my most important jobs as senator for Sylvania Township is to listen and to actually be on the ground with those who I represent. And I have 109 villages, cities, and townships in the 2nd Senate District to represent, over 900 local government officials, and I won't remember all of them or know all of them personally, but I do my best. And so I've been trying to, when we're not in session, we were not in voting session today, try to get back to the communities that I represent. So this was Sylvania Township's turn. And besides that, I spoke at Sylvania City a couple weeks ago, and I know darn well I couldn't let too much time go by before I came to Sylvania Township. So, but 5 counties, 125 miles west to east, so it's difficult to get in all the communities, go all the way to Vermilion and start in the western side of Archbold. But I just wanted to stop by, and I've actually worked with the trustees in the past and know some of you pretty well, so it's not as if I'm new to you, but I did want to provide my card to you and make it extra easy for you to contact me if there are issues. The only other thing I guess I would say specifically is there's been quite a bit this year with respect to a state budget and also some local economic development issues. And I know that this area is a growth area, lots of activity, one of my largest townships, and so there's lots of issues that affect economic development and jobs. And there was legislation, House Bill 289, which is Joint Economic Development Zone legislation, that will not permit in the future, after January 1st, townships to engage with municipalities specifically in those types of economic development zones. But there exist still joint economic development districts, and there will be meetings later on this year, later this summer, with the sponsor of House Bill 289, Representative Shearing from Canton, and we're going to be inviting local government officials to be a part of that. There may be things that you see as trustees that you believe are impediments in the current law to allow you to work collaboratively with other townships or with other local governments, counties or municipalities, or other ideas you have that you think would be helpful, important to do your jobs well and to create a solid tax base for Sylvania Township. So that will be forthcoming, but I wanted to basically report that to you. I did vote for that legislation. Candidly, I thought there wasn't a strong enough voice of private sector businesses involved in JEDZs, and I thought that that should be corrected, and that bill did that, but yet allowed them to continue into the future. So if you have, it doesn't have to be tonight, but it could be other opportunities if you want to email me or call me or come up to visit to talk about those types of issues. I think it's very important in our area to continue to reach out, even though unemployment's getting a little better. It's still not good enough, and we have more work to do. With that, we just passed a mid-budget review bill 2 weeks ago, just signed by the governor this week. It deals with some tax changes that I think are benefit to our state. And there may be other issues that are on your mind. If you'd like to ask a question or two, you're welcome to do that. And with that, I also would kind of open that, at least in the future, to constituents. If you live in Sylvania Township, I'm your senator, and I say it means you're my boss. And some people get excited about that, but when I visit second grade classrooms, I tell them the same thing. So, and they get real excited about that. But really, I enjoy hearing from the people I represent, and I would offer that as well to anyone. And the trustees have my email address and my phone, and you're certainly welcome to contact me as well. But with that, trustees, thank you for the privilege, and if there's anything you want me to take back right now this evening, I don't want to, again, take too much of your agenda time, but wanted to offer myself up for questions as well.
We thank you for coming here.
I do have one quick question.
Yeah, please.
What percentage of your territory, what percentage of your district is township? What's the mix? 80%, 50, township village?
You know what? The next time someone asks me that question, I'm going to know exactly that answer. To kind of get a feel for the district, you can do it this way. A majority of the geographic area clearly is township, and in terms of population, I don't have any, what I would say, terribly large cities. Sandusky is the largest one. I don't have any of the city of Toledo. The district is this. It starts, I have all of Fulton County except for 2 townships, York and Swan Creek. So I have most of Fulton County, all of western Lucas County, 87,000 people in the western side of Lucas County, not counting the city of Toledo and not counting Springfield Township. So Waterville, White House, Sylvania Township, Monclova, Sylvania, Ottawa Hills, that area. And then I kind of do a horseshoe around the city of Toledo. I have all of Wood County. I live in Bowling Green. And then I have all of Ottawa County and all of Erie County, go all the way to the Erie-Lorain County line. So most of the largest city, again, is Sandusky. I have more townships than I have municipalities. So the population, it would be interesting to do a mix of the population. But it is a very diverse district, actually, and a good mix of middle-sized cities and villages and townships. Yes?
What is the legislature doing about looking at funding for school systems throughout the state and providing more monies towards schools in like, for example, Sylvania and other areas?
Okay.
Is there any new legislation pending?
Well, there's nothing new in terms of the formula. We've actually changed it quite a bit over the last 20 years. And in this last state budget, there was about $1 billion additional in state funding for school districts. Quite a few districts in my Senate district actually received the maximum amount, which was about 6% the first year and 10% the second year in new state funding. It's a complicated system, so not everyone received the precise same amount, so I'm not going to say that any particular district did received that same percentage, but overall across the state, it was a significant increase, the most significant increase in 10 years. 2 years before that, candidly, I thought the reductions to school funding were more significant than they should have been, and there were some reductions. There was some federal stimulus money that was for 2 years, and some people were led to believe that maybe that would continue, and when that money wasn't there anymore, some districts didn't necessarily plan for that money not being there. It was a 2-year so-called stimulus, budget stabilization money. So again, it's a complicated issue, but by and large, Ohio's funding, went up significantly in the current budget that we're in now.
Vis-a-vis though, let's say 5 years ago, in the budget, I mean, it's gone up $1 billion, you said, but how much have the cuts been over the last, let's say 5 years or so?
There's more money being spent in this fiscal year than was spent 5 years ago, but not by that much. And probably for most districts, not above the pace of inflation. So in this current budget, yes, way outpaced inflation, but the 5 years, just like most private businesses, just like other local governments, schools took some reductions, and there were some real challenges in balancing the budget during those times as well. Now, what we also have not done, there are a number of school districts that have lost population, and we've had a guarantee that says even though they may have lost some students, they didn't lose money. So no school district in the state had a reduction in this last budget. Every district, regardless of circumstances, was not decreased in the state. So that was another commitment that probably can't be made into the future, because if you have growth school districts in this area, Sylvania generally has been in that regard. It is not fair to those districts not to benefit from increased funding if they have more students, where another district, at some point, if you lose students, there should be some savings, and the state budget ought to reflect that. But that's the question. When I started my job in the legislature quite a number of years ago, I look back 10 years before that, in 1977, when my predecessor, 2 times removed, did a column about school funding, and that was 1977. And some of the same questions and issues that were raised in 1977, some of them are still with us. So much for the easy questions from the Sylvania Township. But you know what? But it's an important one, and it affects our communities very much. So I respect the question. Thank you. Anyone else?
Anyone in the public have a question, or?
Now I have to ask Mr. Crandall if I could. I know that you had sons that played hockey at Northview, 5 of them. Did you happen to go down to the state?
You know one of the sons?
Did you happen to go down to the state tournament this year and see that overtime game?
Oh, yeah.
Did you really?
Yep.
Unbelievable, huh?
Yes, it was.
Talk about
Randy, I
part.
appreciate you coming up. It's nice to see you in
No,
person and talk to you. I'm sure we'll be getting back to you. We've had discussions through our Community Improvement Corporation here, trying to get the city and township working together for economic development.
Okay.
What helps them helps us,
Okay.
and vice versa. So,
Well,
I'm pretty sure when you have that hearing coming up, I'm going to do everything possible to attend that.
Okay, well, if there's any way that I can be kind of a bridge between the township and city on something that might be helpful to the
Actually, we have a pretty good relationship, I would say, in regard.
Good.
We share a fire department, we share a rec district,
Okay.
so we have a relationship that I think we're both trying to do the best thing for the school district.
Mhm.
That's kind of what pulls us together. And a portion of that is in the city of Toledo
Okay.
also, so
Very
that's our
good.
goal.
Very good. Love to be a part of it.
Yeah, one last thing, Randy helped with getting the ballot on the township for the TARDA when that was up. That was a kind of a difficult thing with the city and having the township vote on TARDA and let the people decide on public transportation
Well,
out here. So thank you for your
My view on that is to every extent we can to allow either local governments or those they represent to have a say in local decisions as to every degree we can. I think, it's kind of cliche-ish, but government closest to the people, you have people that can sit before you or stand before you and ask questions and challenge decisions that are made and work with you. And I think that's the best kind of government, is that's decided as close to the people as possible. So that was kind of the philosophy that governed that, Mr. Mahoney.
Thank you very much.
With that, thank you.
Thanks, Randy.
Contact me anytime. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you.
Next up on the agenda is the zoning department, the monthly report and a resolution.
We'll hold off for Mr. Eisel, you can speak before the fire department goes. Okay. Go ahead, Darrell, sorry.
That's right. Good evening. You have before you the monthly report for the month of May for zoning. We had another good month as far as permits. We had 61 permits for the month, exactly the same amount as last year, but higher dollar amount, just under $5 million in estimated value, and that was mostly because of the 15 single-family dwelling permits that we had, which you can see down on the bottom, we're up to 42 for year-to-date as opposed to 32 at this time last year, and we just under 11 million in estimated value of those single-family dwellings. Next page, Jim, please. Complaints for the month were at 24, a little less than what it's been the past couple of years, and we're at 51 for year-to-date. No surprise, most of the zoning complaints have been on high grass and brush. As far as meetings for the zoning department, the only one that we had last month was project plan review. We actually didn't meet for it, we just approved it administratively. It was lock it up self-storage that added an additional storage building to their existing facility. And that's all I have for the monthly report. I've got resolution 1465, authorization of abatement of properties for vegetation and/or debris. I would like to make a couple changes to that. There's two properties I want to remove. That would be the 4139 Nantucket and 6206 Sylvania Road. And with the board's permission, I would like to add 3 properties if that's acceptable. And those are all on Mallard Point Lane and the Mallard Point subdivision. They're vacant lots. 5661, 5713, and 5723 Mallard Point Lane.
That's fine. I'll offer resolution 14-065, authorize abatements on listed properties.
Second.
Mr. Crandall?
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mr. Genowine?
Yes.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Thanks, Darrell.
Hey, Darrell, question, if you abate one particular home and then nothing's done then, do you have to come back, or is that just in process, we'll go?
The process starts all
over again?
Right. They have to exceed 8 inches and
So the
height.
complaint has to come in, and we're just not, you're going to need the whole, another 30 days and the whole process to?
Right.
Okay,
Unfortunately.
yeah, all right, I get it, thanks.
Next up is Public Works Department. Greg, do you have anything? I do not. Any questions for Greg? Next up is the Fire Department, and we have a resolution, monthly report, and a levy update.
I'd like to let Mr. Eisel speak. He had signed up
Right.
to talk on agenda items.
I don't know if it's agenda item, I was here to participate in the discussion and make a few comments and questions in regards to the report,
Nice.
final report that's on the website. I don't know if this is the proper time or...
Yeah. That way the chief can address something if you bring up an issue, or we can try to help answer the questions.
First off, my name's Tom Eisel. I live at 5015 Jolly, Sylvania. And first off, I'd like to say that not only am I a citizen of Sylvania, and for those who don't know, I was associated with the fire department for 32 years. And I respect the leadership of the fire department, all the firefighters, and the performances that they do throughout the year. I always thought that Sylvania had the best fire department around, and I still do. I did take a time to go over the fire department report to the public that was on the website dated May 21st, And I believe it's for discussions prior to determining a levy if needed. Am I correct with that? Okay. I just had a few questions in regards to this. One being with the apparatus, and that would be under Exhibit D, the inventory of the apparatus. The new KME engines that were delivered a few years back, we know we have been seeing a lot of problems with those. They've been sent back to the factory. They have a projected life on the report of 15 to 18 years. I question whether or not we're going to get 15 to 18 years out of those. And for the reason is I'm in private fire investigations now, and I go all over the state doing fire investigations and visiting different fire departments. And some of the departments I go to have KME engines. And I can't remember, it was a small volunteer fire department in central Ohio. But the mechanic was in there working on his engine, and it was a KME. And it was right when Sylvania started having trouble with theirs. And I asked him, I said, you got a KME. When did you start having trouble with it? And he said, the day it pulled into the station. This vehicle was only 6 years old, and they put it in a second line apparatus now because of its unreliability. So I'm questioning whether or not 15 to 18 years is even reasonable based on the history of that type of engine. So I don't know if we can...
We'll direct those questions to the chief when he gets up there. I'm sure he's excited to answer.
The other one has to do with Exhibit F, when they had the manpower. It shows that in 2014 we had 57 full-time firefighters. I didn't write down the part-time, but it showed administrative staff is 4.5. I know recently they promoted a captain as a training officer, and I'm not sure if he's included in which category, because if I count the 3 chiefs, the 1 administrative assistant, and the 1 part-time, that's 4.5. I'm not sure where the training officer is, if he's counted in with the firefighters. And lastly, it has to do with EMS transport. I fully support EMS transport, fire-based EMS transport. When we had it in the fire department many years ago, I thought it was a great asset. At one of our meetings that we had, I believe it was a city councilman that came up and approached us and said that even if we didn't make a profit, it would be a great benefit to the township and the city. The long wait for private ambulance to show up, I know it was a big concern. A couple of my last years on the department as deputy chief, I sat on the Lucas County EMS Advisory Board, and they at one time had a vote to have some of their ambulances, private companies, move the positions for their stations. Nobody there really cared because everybody had fire department transport. Sylvania was the only one there. I voted against this one provider moving the station. And I think we could still be in that position down the road where if someone feels like they want to move 2, 3, 4 miles down the street to make a better operation for them, then it could affect their response time out to Sylvania. So those are the big concerns that I have and questions, and I fully support the fire department, and I would expect that I would fully support a levy if it is put on the ballot this fall. So thank you very much for the time.
Great work taking a look at it, Tom. Thank you. Appreciate your effort.
I'm going to bring the chief up to answer the specific questions, but just as a background, as you know, on the KME, we filed a lawsuit against the firm, and had a settlement where KME agreed to take the engines back and repair everything we listed that was wrong with them, and they are doing that as part of the settlement of the suit, just to let you know that. Chief?
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Eisel. I'll try to get your questions answered. First of all, on the KME engine, in my report, normally what we would do in past years, an engine would last about 20 to 25 years. We would take an engine and put it in frontline service for 12 to 15 years and reserve status for 10 years. What's affected most of our equipment, all of our equipment, is the brine that's going down on these streets, the salt. That's causing the steel frames to pit and to corrode a lot quicker than what we had anticipated. So that's one of the reasons I changed the life expectancy for the engines now, the newer engines, from 15 to 18 years of service. When we did send engine 62, was the first engine that went back to KME for repairs, and we did file a lawsuit in federal court. And KME did repair all the items, although our mechanic did have to take care of a few things when it got back to us. I'm glad to report that we haven't had any problems. If the only problems we've had were very minute problems, none of the major problems that we had before we sent it down. So it appears that the first engine, at least, that came back is functioning well and up to the specs that we originally set forth before we ordered the engines. The second engine is down there now. It's been down there since May 6th, something like that. So they've had it a couple months now. I get reports about every 3 to 4 weeks. They have the outside taking care of the paint issues. They're spraying the interior cabinets. They're starting to reassemble that second engine, and I anticipate hopefully don't have it more than another month, and then that third engine would go back to KME. So I'm hoping that when that second engine comes back, it will perform as engine 62 is performing now. As far as the manpower goes, that 57, yes, the captain is included in the 57 staffing level, and the administrative staff is 4.5. So the captain would be considered, even though he's an 8-hour-a-day position in the training position, it's 56 line personnel and 1 training captain that's on administrative schedule, but he's not part of the administrative staff. Did I answer all your questions? Okay.
And I would like to point out that those trucks were purchased before you took your position and
Thank you.
before anyone of this board was sitting in these chairs. So
I appreciate that.
You are stuck holding the bag, and we're trying to do the best we can with those engines.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
If nothing else, yes.
The other thing I'd like to mention, Chief, is the company is leasing equipment, a pumper, at their expense.
That is correct.
While these units are being returned.
Yeah, KME, as part of the suit, KME will provide us with a spare engine. During this, they had the first engine 9 months at $5,000 a month, so it cost them $45,000. With the additional 2 months, it's cost them about $55,000, $60,000 for that spare engine, for them to lease that spare engine for us. So we're not out anything as far as wear and tear on our other apparatus.
And as Mr. Genuine said, we're doing the best under the circumstances.
We're playing the hand that we were dealt.
Yes.
Monthly report?
Yes, please.
Okay, you have before you the monthly report. This is the monthly report for May.
I think Tom has another question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, sure.
Just a quick follow-up.
Yes, sir.
The projection 15, 18 years, do you think it's feasible that we'll get this?
I'm hoping that we get it out of there. Right now, we're not seeing any major problems with the apparatus, but it's like anything else. The mechanic doesn't have them in the shop as much as he had in the past, so I'm anticipating that hopefully we can get 15 to 18 years out of it.
Get 10 years out of it, would that affect the 11?
Well, right now, in my apparatus, in that document that you saw on the internet, my apparatus replacement schedule, the next one that will be replaced, is scheduled to be replaced, is the Sutphen. I always misspell it, so I have to be very careful how I say that. The Sutphen, and also the Pierce. Those are the 2 oldest vehicles, and I anticipate if we replace those, we would put those in frontline service and remove the KMEs to reserve status, which hopefully would lengthen the time that we would be able to keep those in service and be dependable. That's my goal.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay. Page 2 just it gives you the total, where we at year to date. We're at just almost 3,000 runs. The next page is our rescues. Our rescues are up a little bit, and for the month of May, I anticipate with this warm weather that we've had in this heat and humidity, we're going to start running more breathing problems. That usually increases during the month also. On page 4 are our mutual aid incidents. I know the trustees are always interested in this. To just give you the Reader's Digest version, we received mutual aid from either Toledo or Springfield Township 5 times, and we gave mutual aid to Springfield twice and Toledo once. So we're still ahead of the game as far as that mutual aid agreement goes, and automatic aid with Springfield Township. Page 5 is our community risk reduction. During the month of May, 6 smoke detectors were installed this month by fire crews. 38 homes were contacted. And in the Bancroft, Wolfinger, and Irwin Road areas for our return to the scene program, 4 new smoke detector alarms were installed and 5 batteries were replaced. As I said in my previous ones in March, we're behind that return to the scene because of the bad weather. We're starting to catch up on that. We have one this Saturday and another one next Saturday, and we'll be pretty much caught up on all the past fires that we had during the winter months. Building and project plan reviews, again, Chief Freilich was quite busy again for plan reviews. He had 9 plan reviews, 4 license inspections for either preschools or daycares, 1 environmental review for the property located at 4442 Alexis, 1 final acceptance test, and the fire crews did 386 commercial inspections. Page 6, you'll see the monthly training report. Again, May, we went and had our 4 hours of training with Lucas County. This month, June, is trauma. This will be the last one for the summer months. We're off June and July, so we won't have any training hours during July and August. And the firefighters went out to the tower, drilled on Mayday skills, Mayday management, and also we had classroom sessions on the new CAD system that just went in June 11th of this month. We're all happy to see that up and running with the amount of money that we spent on it. If nothing for the monthly report?
I have a couple questions.
Yes, sir.
Commercial building inspections.
Yes.
How many do we do on an annual basis?
2,500?
Right around that.
24 to 2,500 is what we try to get into on a yearly basis.
And is that with the re-inspection, so they come in here, they find the exit light doesn't work and come back, and that would count as 2 visits, or you guys are doing 2,500 buildings?
That's the initial.
Okay. And when you do that, we send a full pumper truck out there with 3 paramedics to do each of those?
Yes.
And they take about an hour, hour and a half?
Depends on the size of the building.
You want to come over, Mike? Go ahead.
Obviously, the size of the building determines all the time it takes to do that. Some of the things we're trying to educate the public, something new in the codes, is it's actually their responsibility to check the exit lights, the emergency lights, and things like that, and we're showing them the codes and educating them. That's the biggest thing right now, is educating the business people on their responsibilities, which kind of helps us out at the same time.
And on average, how many commercial fires do we have a year?
Very few, because of the inspection process.
But we're tying up about 9,000 hours or so a year on 1.5 fires a year, or?
The fire code specifies that we have to do the inspections in the businesses.
Yes.
And that's something that's code required. We're charged with enforcing.
But it doesn't say we've got to do it with 3 paramedics?
No.
Okay. Okay. I've read through that report, and I had a couple things that I would like to point out. In 2007,
Your report,
your report, the last one I was given, not the one that I got today, but the last one.
We got it.
In 2007, we had a $6.98 million budget. We had 4668 calls
Wait a
that year.
minute. You're on the Which exhibit are you on?
Well, I took the number of calls off the service calls that you put up here, and then I went to our budget and got the budget numbers from that. And our fire department has stayed very, very consistent on a per-run cost. About $14.80 to $14.95. You know, if you just take the budget divided by the, to me, there's two ways to look at this, and part of this stems from when Toledo took over Ottawa Hills. You know, I was talking to somebody in the Toledo Fire Department, or I think it was Chief Bell, and he said, you know, when we looked at it, you know, they were running their department for about $900,000 a year, and they were getting about a call and a half a week. And he said we could easily absorb that, and that's why they came in at a much lower price to manage that fire department. So I've started to think there has to be other ways to kind of set the benchmark for the fire department. So if we're looking at just a per call run, we're looking at about $1,500.
I've got the calls, but you're going back to budget years. Is it
Well, it's not very hard. You take the budget and you divide it by number of calls. And then I took the number of calls and divided it by stations.
What
and
year are you in?
Well, for 2007, it was $14.95. In 2013, it was $14.78.
I see the years, but I don't, those years aren't in the report.
1478 total runs?
No. That's what it costs if you divide it out by the total number of runs.
Oh.
So then I looked at how many calls does each firehouse break out on average for the year. And if you just take the raw call number, divide it by the days of the week, by the days of the year, and the stations we have, we're running on average 3.72 calls a station a day.
And did you take the incidents or did you take the responses to that? There's a big difference between incidents. We run 7,000 responses a year with 4,500 incidents. A response is just like the run that just went by here a few minutes ago. We send a life squad and an engine. That's 2 vehicles to that one response. The same thing with an injury accident. We send 2 engines to that one incident. It only gets tagged as one incident, but we send 2 of our apparatus. Our manpower is tied up for X amount of time at that incident. So there's a big difference between incidents and responses.
Okay.
That you have to be careful of, that's all.
And how many incidents?
Last year we ran 6,998, just say 7,000 incidents last year.
Okay.
I'm sorry, responses last year. Those are vehicles that were tied up at an incident for X amount of time.
So I did take responses then, and not incidents.
So you divided it by 7,000?
Yes.
Okay.
And, you know, I know I've had the conversation many times with the department as to how do we transition our focus from fire to an EMS operation. And, you know, I'm looking at, 9,000 hours being spent on commercial building inspections when we average about 1.5 commercial building fires a year. And I get frustrated then when I look at, hey, I'm with everybody else in this room. I think our fire department has a role in transport. I do get a little standoffish when, it's built in the contract that we have to hire 2 firefighters if we go into that business. I just think that there's, how can we better utilize our resources here? And, I don't know. And I continue to ask, how can we transition from a fire department into an EMS department? But I don't know what that answer is. That's not my specialty or anything. My specialty is numbers, and that's why I started to break these down and look at, what is it costing per run? How many runs are we doing? And, and every time I ask a question, it's like, well, what if we get a call jump and a this or that jump and back-to-back calls? And at 3.72 calls per station, there can't be that many back-to-back calls, and if there are, then there's extremely lengthy periods of times where there's no calls.
I think I'm fairly good at numbers, I don't know.
Okay,
John,
well, why didn't you have anything in this report on cost of service, on number of runs, and
Well,
the
you
dollars
didn't ask
spent, and...
John, it's very simple, you haven't
Okay.
asked for it.
Okay,
I'm not following your numbers, but I'll bet if you put them on a piece of paper for me, and I take a look at it,
okay.
I'll be glad to get back to you, or
Well-
I'm sure the chief would. You have our numbers,
Yeah.
and you've had this report since May.
Well, no, I had
know.
a draft report back in March, but we didn't want to bring it up before any other levies got up there, so
Well,
we're now in July, because our next meeting is July, and we're still barely scratching the surface of this levy thing. And I'm getting extremely impatient, because I don't know if we have enough time, and then throw in a transport unit and things, and it's just confusing our public out here. And, I called Mr. Zeitler on Friday or Thursday and said, I had 3 people in our community ask me what this report was telling them. And it is a good summary of what we have here, but, like, what is the direction? Where are we headed? And what are we to do with this? Is where I really want to start drilling down, and I don't know.
I'm sure if you tell us what you're looking for, I haven't brought up anything with the fire department that they haven't been able to respond.
Okay.
But I think it's our responsibility to tell them what we're looking for.
What are we looking for?
Well, I'm satisfied, you're obviously not.
Well, what are you satisfied with?
I'm satisfied with the report.
And what does that report tell you?
In the big picture,
Mm-hmm.
we have the equipment we need, I'm still a little, the finance group has said 5 to 8 years. I'd like to see us tie that year down better than that span, but that's their responsibility to let us know what, they're thinking 1 year longer than our report says. So that tells us one thing. Then we have to do staffing, that's 80% of our cost. So,
Definitely.
and we just got that in the last week. I mean, that's the biggest cost, is the staffing. It's about 80%.
In just
of the
about
cost.
every organization, that's
Sure,
about the
sure.
number,
School
especially in
system's
private, yeah.
a little higher, it's 85%. Then comes the equipment, in my mind. All the pieces of equipment are on here. Possibility with patient transport, if we were to do that. That's another question, should we be doing it? Should we be doing it as a first responder or as a backup to the public-private sector? But you're going from what I call calls to now responses. I don't know that the responses are in here, are they?
No,
I mean,
we
so-
reported,
I mean, we can give you any number you want, you just got to tell us what you're looking for. And I'll bet we can have it to you in certainly less than a week.
Well,
I mean, the idea of this report was to get it out early to not only the other 2 trustees, but to the community, so we could respond. And John has updated the reports, probably, I don't know, 6 or 7 revisions as the public has asked questions. I think, and you've gotten copies of those as we've went along here.
John, I asked you to report on me what's going on in Perrysburg Township and Rossford, and I know you sent me something from WSPD where Perrysburg is sending a transport, but I also, they've reduced their minimum staffing, and I asked you too about Sandusky, where they eliminate a fire station during non-peak hours. I mean, I don't want this to come down to laying off firefighters. I think that's going to make our community, I don't think anybody in our community wants that. But I do want to challenge our fire department is how do we, where do we go from here? And, I mean, I read through this report over and over, and I'm still not, anything's popping out at me. I mean, what's your opinion? Do we get into transport and put that on the levy, or where are we at?
Sure. I think the report tells you, and the chief's update this week, that we should only respond to the calls that are 20 minutes and over, and the calls that they can't service. the county. We have, and you get those calls every month. I think we have 14 or 16 months. It's roughly 6% of the calls. The county can't get us a vehicle. And if you add, it's about 11 to 12% that we are longer than 20 minutes. I think both are unacceptable. I don't think that's a proper service level our community needs.
Would we have to hire 2 people by contract if we got into that, or what would our status be
The
there?
report today tells you no.
We haven't discussed that with the union.
When do we want to do that?
Well, we have to wait till the board decides we want to pursue that.
Okay, well, I made that clear in the negotiations that I wanted that out, and it's still there. So when do you plan on doing it?
Well, no, what we determine is, and it's a determination of the contract, is the 2 additional for full-time transport. We would want to work with the union, and hopefully they would want to work with us, that if we only do it 300 times, which is about a fourth of what a full-time unit would be running, what accommodations can be made on both sides to accomplish that. And we have not approached the union yet, because we don't know if that's the route we want to go. If we determine, yes, we'd like to see that route, then we can go to the union and say, this is what we're looking at, where can we work out?
John, we're trying to project, we're looking out, let's say 7 years. All right. What's the maximum firemen we'll need? Doesn't mean we're going to hire them tomorrow. What's the equipment need so that we can set a reasonable millage to keep our commitment of 7 years? The rest of this, I don't know that we can work out with the county EMS and the union, all these things, but we're setting goals to the community. So when we put millage on, they can clearly see we've met our goals. That's the way I look at it. You're not going to work out all these things in the next 30 days.
Well,
you have a decision.
I think we're going to follow the same footsteps as the school if we don't put that stuff out there in our business plan in terms of, what we plan to do for this community. Okay, well.
Now, if you want to put responses in and other things, tell us. We still have time to add it.
I don't know if we do. I mean, I'm looking at July coming. We've got to have this in front of the Board of Elections in early August, and we haven't even gotten one committee member on here, or?
Probably by the end of July.
But we haven't made the decision to be on the ballot. How can we form a committee?
Well, I mean, I think we've, as a board, have been talking about going on for quite some time, and the dollar amount hasn't been clear, but, my thing has been, what service, and again, one of the things that I like about our fire department is they are very proactive and do the return to the scene, and those are the reasons why we only have 1.5 commercial fires a year. So what I'm challenging the fire department to do is how can we better utilize our resources, and part of that is transport, in my mind. It always has been. But I've been reluctant to get on board because of union contracts that say we've got to hire additional staffing. And is it our best use of resources sending 3 highly trained and skilled paramedics to a scene to inspect a commercial building?
And the chief recommended, I think, I don't remember the exact wording, but he'd like to add an 8-hour inspector. I think you questioned that at the last meeting, so.
Well, no, I watched the news and I saw the chief on there saying that was his top priority. The chief and I have never had a conversation about that.
Well, I'm hearing maybe that's a good idea, rather than sending the 3 men out.
Are we looking into that, chief? Is that part of that hire?
I would recommend that we replace a position that we lost in 2001, which is a fire safety inspector, not a fire safety director. I think that was what the wording that was misinterpreted in the news media. I said fire safety inspector, which is just that, a person on an 8-hour day that goes in and does commercial building inspections. We lost that position back in 2001. We didn't replace it, and that's why we have to send our engine companies out to do the inspections that we're mandated to do by the fire code.
and I know you guys have dealt with some difficult buildings in our community, and you've done it, again, you know, you guys do so much behind the scenes. It's not just pulling up at a fire or, you know, and again, that's where I keep saying, hey, you guys are an EMS department. How do we focus more resources on EMS? And obviously, transport's part of that. And I'm getting frustrated because the timeline is coming down on us all pretty quickly. And
If I could say something, I think, I mean, John, I think you're bringing up a lot of good points, and, you know, because I don't know the process or understand all these inner workings of a fire department. But I think the private-public partnership coming out initially, slowly, hopefully the chief can work with the union and talk to them about how we can look at what, you know, if it's got some teeth to it, I think we can look, if it's a valid thing, then that gives us the opportunity to look at our operations. But for us to make decisions on not knowing exactly what works and what doesn't work, today, going into a levy, I'm not sure that works either. I think by staying the course of what we've done and saving on the overtime and the capital expenditures and the chief grinding down the enrollment folks that we have within our department and talking to the largest employers in the city of Sylvania and discuss with them a private-public partnership on transportation, I think is important. And I think if we can keep it small enough, we can kind of wet our feet and see how this thing goes without going all in and changing up a bunch of trucks and changing up a bunch of staffing. Let's dabble into this thing. If it's got some teeth to it, then we'll start, you know, maybe there's an opportunity to continue to work with the private sector, but continue to maybe get back with the unions and discuss with them how we can work together.
Yeah, I think
that's kind of where I'm kind of looking at that side of it. I don't know about, you know, but that's kind of...
what I tried to, in my memo to you, I said, this is the maximum personnel, the chief, and I should be fair to the chief. I think the chief had a higher number, and I'll bet his standards back it up. But we said, we being myself and Mr. Zeitler, hey, we got to walk before we run. And this levy, we're trying to add some additional personnel, but it's after we get into the stuff and see just, is it 300 calls or 400 calls or 450? I don't know. We can make projections. Service calls, but the one on the fire, we realized that fire calls are up 20%. That's in the report. Now, the rescue calls are up 27%. So when you say, oh, we're a rescue unit now. No,
what year are you basing the 20% from 2007?
Yeah, it's on page 3, operational needs. Those are what the past shows. And total calls are up between a little over 5%. When we did our projections, we used 3%. So we're conservative on the calls. It would not surprise me if you go back to our peak year in 2003, and now we go out, let's say, for a 7-year levy. I'll bet those calls will double. Now, you can't double your calls and still have the same number of firemen. You can get better equipment, you can do things, but I think we have to say, and the importance of this is, it's 80% of our costs. If we say, we're not going to hire anybody, I don't think we're giving a fair proposal to the public. And you have our recommendation, and if you...
It's a sliding scale on the employment, right, though? Is it, like, misread that? You're looking at 2015?
Yes, we're not adding, and John, you could say, well, maybe we're ignoring the contract. Some of the confusion I have in the past, the trustees said patient transport was 1,000 to 1,100 calls a year. That means we respond first. The big change here is we're not doing that. We're saying we're going to take the 20-minute calls and the calls when the private sector doesn't show up, and we're going to transport. That takes that 1,100 calls down to, say, 350.
Well,
so I think there's a big difference in the way we talk about patient transport.
Well, if we're looking at increase in call volume, you know, we're looking at 3% a year for fire and 4% a year for EMS.
We just did the total calls. We
Okay.
didn't, when we projected, we only used.
Well, these are the numbers that you presented in the report that I was given on June something or other.
What page you on?
Exhibit E, service calls. So I don't know
Yeah, that
in
just
5
took us-
years how we're gonna double if we're going at 3% a year, but
No,
I
that-
suppose there's always a chance.
Well, that report on there isn't projections, that's past experience.
To me, that's the
Projections,
best.
we did total calls.
Okay.
We could break it down, I guess, if you want the difference, but to me, and we've given you everything, I'm looking for a response.
Well, I've sat with Mr. Zeitler, and he hasn't gotten back to me on several of the points that I brought up to him, but,
They should be in your new one that you got today.
well, yeah, I got it today. You know, I'd like to look things over. I think we made changes to how these meetings go several years ago, where you get this stuff in advance. And, you know, I am at a slight disadvantage, because I haven't even opened it. I didn't think there'd be this much additional information on this again. You know, we're going to be asking the public here in a few short months for more money. I like to be very clear where that money's going, and what it's going to be spent for, and what resources we're going to need, and I think the general public's going to be in that same boat. That's why I'm trying to drill down as hard and fast as we can, because we need to get these answers fast. And, you know, maybe I jumped the gun here, because there are a lot of additional information in here today.
Jumped the gun, my point is, I think I've done my best to answer the questions that you two have talked to Mr. Zeitler about, and we said, let's get him the information.
Well, I know on the first report, we showed, you know, we were down 7 people in the fire department, and they were all part-time people, and we made that correction.
Yeah, you've made corrections, and
Yeah.
John, we're not saying it was a perfect report.
No, I know, but when
We
people
should-
look at it and say, hey, a part-time guy gets paid, what, $9 an hour?
13.
13?
I think it's 13.
You know, they're not even moving the
I'll let
meter.
the chief answer, I don't want to answer those.
I didn't know you were going to get this discussion. Can I get in the mailing, or do I gotta wait for?
You can wait till after and make comment, or after we're done, I guess.
Well, let's talk about the timeline. We've got to
Okay.
make a decision.
Yep.
In my mind, by our next meeting, if we're going to be on the ballot or not.
And what decision are we
We
going
certainly
to?
can't start to form a committee when we haven't decided whether we're going to.
Well, they're out of money next year, so I think we're all in agreement that we've got to do something. So, are we going to have a dollar amount that is needed? I told Mr. Zeitler what my objective was for a levy. And so, I don't know if he touched base with the two of you, and, you know, I'm outvoted 2-1, or we're gonna move forward with.
I got the impression,
Well-
I got the impression that was, you were looking at that, you had,
Maybe I'm coming,
I did talk to the other trustees on that.
maybe I'm coming back
And in
too
the new-
strong, John, but
And in the new.
my point is, I've spent a lot of time on that.
I know,
And I've done my best. Every question from the public or from the other two trustees, and you're saying, well, I still have more questions. Well, give them to us, and we'll get those answers right back to you.
Okay.
I found the department very responsive on questions I've had. And I thought we gave you the information that we needed. And the unknown questions were the number of firemen needed, so we can plug that in. That's what the chief was to get back to us in this memo today. Is our equipment budget okay? We see we have to increase that from the past. And the next thing was, what if the levy fails? He's giving you that information. And
Patient transport?
and patient transport. And we're recommending we don't be the first responder on that we back up the private sector. And those were the 4 issues I thought we needed. Now, you did get it late today, I understand that. Our last meeting was yesterday, so we're trying to keep this thing moving.
okay.
And I'm as concerned about the timeline as you are. As far as, in my opinion, we haven't made a decision yet. And let me tell you, August is bearing down on us.
I know,
First part of August, we got to be on the ballot, one way or the other. But we don't have to be on, we could let it go another year. And you have those numbers and what that does.
I do, the chief sent Plan B out today, and you know,
I don't want to beat an arm list, but we have to have the stuff to the Board of Elections early August, but the problem is we also have to get certifications from the county auditor, how much the levy will bring in, and that takes time too. So I'm going to say, you're looking, by the last week of July the last week of July will be the drop dead date to get the stuff in together to get it to the Board of Elections.
so we have a meeting on the 8th and the 22nd
Of
July.
First.
Oh, 1st and the 18th, 15th.
Yes.
Boy, my eyes are getting bad.
I feel we have to make a decision on July 1st. You still got a committee to form, and all kinds of planning. I think if you go to the end of July, you're waiting too long.
What can we, again, I proposed this last week's, 2 weeks ago's meeting. Can we put in a meeting? The chief has done what we asked him to do as far as put the report. Thank you, by the way.
I think John
Appreciate it.
still has.
Well, I know, but if
Tell us what
we
you
gave
need.
you a week, like we said to the chief, could we have a meeting next, like Thursday, Wednesday or Thursday of next week? Do you think you could get comfortable, all of us get comfortable with what we need addressed, so we're prepared to put that on at the end of June, so we can get started with the committee,
What's June?
like the 26th, have a special meeting?
Yeah.
What do you think, John? I mean, I really don't want to wait. Again, I said this 2 weeks ago. I don't want to wait anymore. We got to get moving. And if we're going to put it on, we're going to put it, we can talk, we'll vote on it the Thursday, the 26th. I don't know. What do you guys, I mean, whatever you guys think. We're going to drag this out another 2 weeks.
I'm
And then
willing
we're back here.
to do the 26th.
What do you
Yeah.
think, John? Are
The
you
20
going to be in town or work? I know you.
John, are you on vacation?
I was going to say, I'll be back, in here. I won't be here the end of this week.
But that would give us maybe that's right, you're out of town for any questions if there were any.
Right. But I'll be back, Tuesday or so.
Couldn't,
Oh, I'm sorry about that.
we
Okay.
have the questions tomorrow. Couldn't the chief and I
Oh.
put it together, and then when you get back, you can take a look at it? I'm willing to do that. The one thing you're right on, John, is the timeline. And believe me, I feel like I've spent tons of time on this, because I'm trying to get to a decision.
Well, I mean, I guess, in order to come up with a decision, do we all meet then with John and tell him our plan, or instead of,
If the three of us meet, it's got to be an open.
yes, that's why we meet individually with John and maybe the chief, or however, but, like we all said, time is coming down, and I just started looking at some things in a different light and think,
And I think if
at
you gave us,
3.7 calls a station a day,
Well, if you give us
are we
what you
properly
need
staffed, or
by
how many
tomorrow.
calls a station can handle a day, or, I'm asking for savings. What do we do? I mean,
And I will talk to council, but one of the things is you can make a resolution that you want to put a levy on at this time or not, but you can be very general on it, because we don't have the numbers, and we've got to get them from the auditor, and like I said, that's the July 20th.
yeah.
And then when we get those numbers from the auditor, we actually will then pass the official resolution to put it on the ballot. But you could, I don't know, but you could have an intent to start things rolling, that we intend to put on a levy on the November ballot, to start the rolling of committees and so forth. So if we could do that the 24th, or whatever, the 6th, because this resolution won't be to put it on the ballot as an official resolution, because of all the other numbers you got to get from the auditor and certification, Dave has to sign off on some things. But we could let the public know, if the board agrees that we had planning on putting a levy on in November, then we can start a committee or trustees.
my first question, if I heard that, John, would be, they're putting something on the ballot, how many mills? So I think we have to be a little further along, have an idea of the millage.
Well, once again, we can say that.
What is our idea of a millage?
Well,
I mean, where are we at?
We give you, we can give you, and we have, and one of the things I have is the different dollar amounts that different mills bring in, and the length of times that those mills will go out in the future. The larger the millage, the longer it goes. But once again, those are only estimates. It's not binding on you at this point until you get the official numbers from the auditor, and the auditor gives you the official numbers through the valuation and update. It's a complex procedure. Once you get
Break
those
it down
things
for us
into-
ignorant people.
Pardon me?
Break it down for us ignorant people. What are we looking for? How much money, how much mills, where are we at right now?
We can have,
Do you
I have my
agree?
opinion, or,
Do you agree with the report?
I don't know what it's telling me. I mean, I agree that everything is here, that what our fire department is doing. I don't, I kind of got confused when the transport issue was brought up. I kind of got confused when I turn on the television and I see we're hiring a safety inspector. And then I look at, the complaints that I've received on some commercial building inspections, and I think, man, we are spending a ton of resources in this. Is there any way we can change around and provide better service to our community and still maybe maintain our budget, where we're at, or what are we going to need? And when parts are moving, I know that's going to change the bottom line, and I guess that's my concern at this point. But I mean, the report, it's pretty much a good historical summary of what we've done with the fire, what the chief's done with the fire department. In terms of where we're at with our equipment and our buildings and all those sort of things, our promises to the community. And again, that previous levy was passed before any of us were sitting up here, and I think we delivered on those promises. But, I'm kind of I try to look at both sides, and I just, with the defeat of the school levy, I got very fearful of where this is headed and where, what our department's going to look like if things don't go well. So I think that whole thing stems from us getting the message out. And I guess if I've had 3 community leaders come up to me and ask me what this report says, and then I'm looking through it, and I picked apart and met with John and had discussed several issues, I just think we're already starting to not really communicate that effectively, and I'm getting more concerned. And as we keep throwing more pieces into that moving mix, it's only getting worse. So, but I guess we're not going to solve any of that this evening. So,
well, maybe, and if you do have a special meeting, by that time, maybe we can have the mix not moving anymore, and this is what we're...
Are we looking at June 26th or July 26th?
June 26th. That would be a special meeting.
What if-
July 1st is the actual meeting, but we can always do a special meeting.
Well-
One of the things that I don't...
No, you please, go ahead.
The moving mix is, if we do the public-private partnership on transport, there's revenue that we get from that. So one of the things I did is...
There's expenses too.
Right, and I
Yeah.
put those in there. Well, if we're not going to do that, I'm going to take that revenue out and the expenses out. So, once we decide, here's the mix, it's not going to be moving anymore, then I can get you firm figures, because like right now, I have a proposal, in the budget projections, if we do 300 transports a year or 350, that brings in X amount of dollars and has X amount of expenses. If we're not going to do that, I'm going to take the X amount of dollars out and those expenses. If we're going to do something else, or, some things in the report, we're not going to do or we're going to do, I can adjust the revenue for it. And
Well,
I can
that's-
have that for you on the 26th if the trustees come back and said, we are going to do this, this, and this. We'll have a budget for that in the next 5, 6, 7 years, and then determine the millage, and we can all do that at that meeting. I can say, what you guys want, agreed to, is going to be X mills for 7 years, or 8 years, or 5 years, or however you want to do it. But I got to get the mix, as you said, quit moving.
Well, 16% of the total calls were over 20 minutes, and that comes to 336 runs.
Right, that's why we use it for 300 runs.
Okay. Okay.
And once again, at this point, we don't know the expenses to do that, because we'll work with the union, and since it's only 300 rounds, maybe we can work out something where, you know, if this number, we won't, I'm just saying, if we won't need to hire anybody, but work with us, understand the problems, and then if we go more, then we'll address the issue at that time. But we haven't addressed that yet, because we don't know if we're going to do that. I didn't want to put the cart before the horse.
Okay. So I guess when they said, you know, we were putting the community at jeopardy, they just meant that, you know, if we hired 2 more people, then that we would be out of jeopardy. When, you know, they all got on the news and told us how unsafe our community was with transport. Is that?
I don't.
Let's try not to, what I'm trying, John, I appreciate you pushing the chief and pushing John. I mean, I looked at, just in a nutshell, this thing too. I mean, you know what, I think we've done a great job on cutting back on our equipment purchases, okay? You know, I think we've done a good job on your overtime, great job. I think this private-public relationship we get with unions and work with these guys on this. You know, I know that the raise issue, which again, as John mentioned before, there was a small check at the end, you know, but the bottom line is, everybody came together on this. We're close. I think we're really close in getting this out and getting it going. And John keeps challenging with great questions, and I respect you for calling it out like this, John. We can keep calling it out, but the bottom line of it is, we got to get to the bottom. And I also look at not to talk too much here, but the one thing I do get is there's monies that we're negatively impacted from the state. It's not like we're out just spending money like crack addicts here. We've got money that is at the bottom line is taking us off. It's cut our knees off a little bit. So we just got to stop put our fingers in the dam here and just get this thing going and continue to ride lean. And I think, you know, overall, I think, Mike, personally, I think you do a great job keeping it lean. You're not asking for the farm here, but I just can't sit here and say, in 5 years, we might need 2 guys. You know what, you might need 10 guys. I hope Sylvania Township has grown so much that we've got, what a great problem. But for today, I know what the problem is. We got to get a levy passed. So that's kind of where I'm at with it. I'm ready to make a move and get done with this thing. But, you know, we'll wait till the 26th, and John, will you get us an idea of the levy number? So we're done talking about that? Okay. Anybody, I mean, will you guys agree, disagree with what I'm saying, or I don't, you know? I'm wide open.
I'm anxious.
Have we had any conversations with combustion controls and how that situation panned out, or where are we at there?
Combustion controls for what?
I don't know.
The business?
Yeah.
It's Centennial and,
No, it's on Wilford Drive.
I did research on that. We were there once a year for the last 4 years. We did not return for any violations. They had a violation back in 4 years ago that they called and said they had cleared the violation. We did not return. So we've been there once every year to do the general inspection like we do with every other commercial building in the township and the city.
No one called the business owner to see what his concerns were?
No, sir.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much.
I have one more thing. If I can entertain that.
Did we decide on a meeting here for the 26th? Is that what we're doing?
I'm out on the 26th.
About the 27th then? We're trying to put that.
It's a Friday.
we can make a day and time, by the way.
I'm out.
You're going the 26th, 27th?
Yes.
If we push it to the 25th, might be a little soon.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
you
we have
guys.
our regular meeting Tuesday. I mean,
Yeah, July 1st.
Yeah.
That was my day.
So
Yeah.
let's just go with the regular meeting on Tuesday the 1st.
I think we have to make a decision on July 1st.
I ask for your consideration, Resolution 14-070 for the fire chief to hire.
So you might as well have me now.
Offer Resolution 14-070, authorize fire chief to hire part-time firefighters, paramedics.
Second.
Mr. Crandall?
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mr. Genowine?
Yes.
Thank you. If there's nothing else,
We're good.
Thanks, Chief.
Thanks.
thank you.
Mr. Hayes, did you have something to say?
Yeah, I want to continue this just for a few minutes and not get away from this. You guys are trying to figure out the meeting. You got me so confused, I don't know who's up first and who's up second. First of all, we're not here, or you're not there to run the fire department. That's his job, and you ask him what he can cut. That's not the problem with the levy. We need to figure out what we need. It's real simple. When I sit there, it's real simple. You guys are complicating it. I really do. I think you are. I think you're barking up the wrong tree. First of all, John said you don't have to tell him how many mills. You all three sat there and agreed that you needed a levy. Is that true? Why can't you vote right now and say, yeah, we're going to have a levy? Why beat around the bush? If the people ask, tell them, yes, we need a levy because we're short funds. We're going to be out of monies next year. That's all we have to tell them. And then we need to go into negotiations with the union if you want to get the ambulance service back. These are things that need to be done before, not after. If not, don't put that on the levy. If the union won't work with you and you can't get it worked out, then the Sylvania Township people don't get it. I mean, these are all real easy questions for me. I just don't understand. I'm sorry. I have a hard time sitting there keeping my mouth shut, and I'm excited right now. I just think, yeah, let's get going. Hey, you got the report. That report's great. Is it the truth? Who knows? You know?
Wait a minute.
But I mean, what do we got to do? We got to start somewhere. Now, as far as the inspections, I know you guys get calls on inspections from businesses, because I've talked to businesses too. We send 4 guys out there, is that correct? 3, all right? Are all 3 inspecting out all the time?
All three are certified.
Are supposed to, not walk around the aisles and look around, okay. That's where some of the complaints that I hear, you know? But they're doing their job, they're mandated, so we gotta do that.
Let me just interrupt you for just a second.
Right.
Anyone that complains about an inspection, give them my name and address and my phone number. I'll be more than happy to talk to them.
I think they'd be glad to give you their name and number.
Any issue that there is, I'll be more than happy to do that.
I think they'd all be glad to hear
We
that.
have complaints, but I need to address it.
You didn't call the business owner that had a complaint. We looked at their inspection report, and that was it. We didn't call that guy, did we?
He actually never called me and talked to me. I heard through just somebody complained and checked into it.
Yeah.
I never received the complaint, or I don't think the chief ever.
I was asked to do a specific thing to look up.
And I asked the chief to do that.
I gave him that information.
But I never received a complaint.
Anyway, let's move on past that. We're not here to tell him what, maybe we can hire that other officer. Yeah, in the paper, I didn't like the article in the paper. In the article in the paper, people came to me and said, oh, we're gonna get ambulance service, and they're gonna add more firemen. Oh yeah? Huh, you're gonna pay more taxes, you know that? Oh really? They thought this was all free. I'm telling you, that's what the public thinks a lot of it. Then when you start talking money, they get a different attitude. I'm on everybody's side here. I just want to get this thing rolling, and I don't want us to look like a bunch of buffoons. Get it done. I don't know what you need a committee for, because you've already made up your mind, and then the committee has to go out there and say, well, gee, yeah, we really agree with this. I want to be on it from the start if I'm going to be on it. If not, I want to come up here and have my say, not what the committee says, my say, so I can ask my constituents. That's all I'm saying.
I would think a committee at this point is going to be a fairly cheerleading mode. I mean,
Yeah.
we're deciding the dollar amount, the levy amount, and
right.
whether we're transporting and all those sort of things. And again, like you said, Al, if we had a committee that was involved in that decision-making process, it should have been formed back in March or February.
Right.
And
So
now
all they are is
we're-
cheerleaders.
Yes.
All your committee is cheerleaders.
Yes.
Like, what you need is somebody to come up, a whole bunch of me's that ask the questions. Maybe I don't have the answers, but at least it gets the dialogue going. My company was $47 million a year that I run. You're running a company with $17 million? You got too many bosses or something. Oops. I like to shoot.
But we got 48,000 employees.
Yeah, right. Where are you from?
Okay,
Next up,
Chief.
Chief Bowman.
And the levy needs to be permanent. Look at your police levies, how many permanent levies they have.
Good evening. I'll make this really brief with the length of our meeting. You have before you the monthly report. Page 2, you can see the calls for service for police and fire at the top 2. We had 1,459 calls for service in the month of May. You can see that that is actually down considerably at the top of the page there from year-to-date 2013. Across our citations, our injury accidents, our property damage accidents, and some of the listed offenses, we're pretty much running close to year-to-date 2013. Some of them were up a little, some of them were down a little. Maybe the only one of robberies are such a small amount that they can be easily skewed, but we're up a little bit there, and we're down a little bit in burglaries. But anyway, we're running pretty close to the same. Page 4 are transports for the city of Sylvania. You can see we're doing real well on that. It didn't cost us a nickel in May to continue to assist the city with their transports. Of course, that's taken into consideration that we have a lot of transports. We make a lot more arrests than the city does, and so we're already doing transports. Plus, we have that good working relationship with the county, where we sometimes take theirs, they sometimes take ours. Page 5, detective caseload stats. Again, I'm not going to go over all these figures. I'll make it really brief tonight. You can see them. Maybe of note, 69 assigned in the month of May, 41 cleared, 28 remain active, and then you can see the bottom numbers, the additional cleared and such. Page 6, our DEA detective, you can see that one thing of note, in the middle or in the very beginning of that paragraph there, $43,437 U.S. currency seized. Again, as I've said in past meetings, it depends on the circumstances of the case, how many other agencies are involved in that, but we usually get anywhere between 5 and 8% of that. Canine report on page 7. Again, I won't go over the whole thing, but you might find it interesting to read those, just those very short paragraphs. We're employing our canine to work more with our detectives, more and more. And our detectives, along with the property crimes, seem to be involved a lot more in cases of drug trafficking, heroin, especially heroin, but marijuana to a smaller degree too. And with the canine, that's proven to be a very valuable tool in assisting them, and you can see by reading that, those paragraphs, that there were some seizures of baggies of heroin in one case, 40 grams of marijuana in another. Of course, any cash that we get from those kind of people, we also seize that. Page 8, Community Affairs, just of note, we had the Citizens Police Academy graduation in the month of May. Again, you can see some of their activities, a couple of arrests and seizures of crack cocaine, which isn't quite as common these days, and cash, a gram of heroin in cash in another case, 7 grams of heroin in considerable cash in another case. Under the schools, this week we're running Safety Township. We've got our officers out there at Central Trail Elementary, which is an annual thing and is very favorable, usually has very favorable reviews. We had our graduation with Stranahan and Dare in the spring here. We ran the 24-hour challenge in May and had a number of officers out there. The speed trailer, we continue to put that out at different locations. We're going to be purchasing a second one of those here soon, because we really need that for not only the enforcement aspect of it, people love to see it, but it's fantastic in capturing the data that we need, the survey data, so we can make informed decisions like on Elmwood and some of those things that we got you. You can see the DEA seizure there again for the month of May was considerable, and on page 10, and if you move just to page 11 there, we don't always have this for you every month, but it's the total that we've gotten from the court so far on the just the fines and things like that. Let's see, is that the monthly? Yeah, that's is that page 10? Okay. Well, I'm sorry, page 11. Do you have a page 11? There it is, I'm sorry. I had it. And anyway, you can see the total from the court and such, so. But I want to emphasize that our business isn't making money. It's nice. Admittedly, here in the talks with the fire department, we have a little bit of an advantage. It's not a tremendous amount, but that's not our job. I talked to a guy today that, he's telling me about traffic on Whispering Oak exiting the wrong way. He's telling me that it's a gold mine. And I'll be honest with you, I told him the money's nice, but we do it to keep people safe. We're not out to make money. So with that, I'm done. Do you have any questions?
Chief, I know every month you go over the drugs and things that Speedy has been involved in capturing and things, and I just, I read the report when Nancy emailed it over, and, all those things really hit home when our community was hit by 2 deaths of very young people from overdoses and things, and, we appreciate what you do. We're glad Speedy is making an impact in this community and things, and again, keep up the good work.
Oh, well, thank you. Our detectives are getting a lot more proactive. A lot of this property crime, actually then leads to drug trafficking and such, and I know they have been doing a phenomenal job. It seems like on a weekly basis, they're involved in some, I don't want to divulge too much in a public meeting, but they're very involved in some investigations and trying to close off some of those supplies too.
I don't want to put an age to myself or anybody on the board here, but you hear the word heroin and you think of New York City and things, and it's here, and it's very prevalent, and it's scary, and you guys are seeing it right, on the streets and dealing with those people, and everything I've read, it's an epidemic, and then you see it hit home with 2 deaths here of young people, and it's just a tragedy, and keep up the good work.
Okay, sure will. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up on the administrator, I'm going to bring Susan up. This is the policy that we deferred from last time.
I have 5 policies that I would like to request that you adopt. They're all amendments. The military deployment policy, what we're trying to do here, we currently follow the revised code in USERA as far as the regulations, and for example, we pay our employees full pay for the first 176 hours or that they are on military leave. What we're doing with this policy to amend it is to allow them to use some vacation time if they want, to bring that up to extend their full pay. We had a firefighter off, I think it was last year, that got into the situation where his pay was going to be reduced, and he wanted to use vacation, and a policy didn't allow that. So that's what that amendment is about. The hours of work and computation of pay, we needed to update that to coincide with the Affordable Care Act, where somebody that works 30 hours per week is now entitled to benefits, insurance, I should say. So we wanted to amend our policy for that. Types of employment and benefits, that had to be updated as well then to coincide with that. Personal days, let's see what we're doing there. We just were defining how you can take personal days. And let's see. Yes, we wanted to define how we handle part-time employees on personal days, that we do prorate that time. Currently, they get holidays, and we wanted to define that as well on how we calculate their holiday pay. In the past, we've not given our part-time employees any vacation, any personal time, and I think that, in looking at that, that's a long stretch to go a whole year and ask somebody not to have any time off except for holidays. So I'm asking for consideration to amend that as well. Any questions?
Looks good. Anyone?
I'll offer resolution, 14-063, to adopt the amendments to personnel policies.
Second.
Mr. Crandall?
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mr. Genowine?
Yes.
Okay, and then also in executive session, I want to go over with you the Teamster contract that they ratified.
Thanks, Susan. Next up is a fiscal officer. I'll turn it over to Mr. Simcoe.
Got our month-end analysis, I believe that's, well, there it is. And our expenditures, which we always like to look at first, are doing well in, I think, in each one of our department. If you average it out, it'd be 41.6. And you look at all the departments on their expenditures, and they are under maybe what we kind of projected should be. So we're doing well on our expenditures. Our revenues are actually up slightly in 3 of the departments. General fund is actually down just a bit, but I think in 13 we had a large estate that came in, and I think that kind of skewered those numbers just a little bit. So I think our revenues are actually looking good right now. So I don't know. I think it's a good report for us. Our analysis, things are taking shape a little bit, and we're 5 months in now, and we're starting to see that we think we're doing well at this point. So that's really all I have on that, unless you have any questions. I just have a couple of resolutions here, try to get through quickly. Resolution 14066, let's see, 14066, yes, transfer appropriations, and it has to do really with property and casual insurance for the police fund, and we need to advance some monies on the grant fund for bulletproof vests, and also some additional monies are needed for communication equipment. It's really all smaller sums, as you can see on the attachment there.
I'm sorry, please. I'll offer Resolution 14-066, transfer appropriations.
Second.
Mr. Crandall?
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mr. Genowine?
Yes.
And then I have Resolution 14067, and the police fund, it's really, I think, relatively smaller sums here. The police fund needs to move some battery pack units per workman's comp inspection that we had here. We need a little bit of additional programming for our website to add image silo items to the police section, and also to enhance our website some, which the trustees had actually requested. So it's going to take us a little money to do that, so we're moving some money around, but not large sums.
Offer Resolution 14-067, approve increase of appropriated funds from unencumbered balance.
Second.
Mr. Crandall?
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mr. Genowine?
Yes.
And lastly, Resolution 14068, it's to advance some funds, and we need, as you know, advance funds from the police fund to the police grant fund for the bulletproof vest grant. So, not a large sum again. Well, it's only $161.55. That's it.
I'll move approval of Resolution 1468, approve advance of funds.
Second.
Mr. Crandall?
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mr. Genowine?
Yes.
And that's all I have.
All right. Nobody? No. Okay. I would like to offer a motion to go into executive session to discuss review negotiation of the Teamster contract at 7:33.
Second.
Mr. Crandall?
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mr. Genowine?
Yes.
Hey, Natalie.
Yes.
That's a draft. I mean, everything's the same.
The tape is running,
It's
folks.
fresh on the screen, but.
Okay. I probably won't even just say it was ratified. I'd like to offer a motion, are we rolling?
Yes.
I'd like to offer a motion to come out of executive session at 7:54.
Second.
Mr. Crandall?
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mr. Genowine?
Yes. We would like to offer Resolution 14-069, approve labor agreement with the Teamsters Local 20. Whereas the current labor agreement between the Teamsters Local 20 and the Township expired on December 31st, 2013, and whereas both union and management have negotiated in good faith to reach a fair agreement for both parties, and whereas the bargaining unit and the Township have reached a tentative agreement, and whereas the tentative agreement was ratified by the members, therefore be it resolved by the trustees of Sylvania Township, Lucas County, Ohio, that the tentative agreement negotiated between the Township and the Teamsters Local 20 be approved with a January 1st, 2014 effective date.
You have a second?
Second.
Mr. Crandall?
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Mr. Genowine?
Yes. I would like to offer a motion to adjourn at 7:55.
Second.
Mr. Crandall?
Yes.
Mr. Genowine?
Yes.
Mr. Mahoney?
Yes.
Threw one at me the last time.
Sunday,
Yes.
no, I